Hi everybody, this is Sufia. This is week 67, and this week we're talking about Pride celebrations. Kind of the topic of, do we go to them? Do we participate? How do we feel about them? Has that changed after our partner transitioned, or how does that interact with our partner's transition? So until recently, my partner and I have been living in Asheville, North Carolina, and Asheville's a small mountain town, but is progressive in its own ways, and it's kind of a mecca for gay folks, especially self-identified lesbians. There's a huge population of lesbian women over the age of 40 in Asheville. So there's a pretty long-standing Pride history in Asheville, and the drag culture is pretty prominent, and all of that kind of shows up at Pride. And so I've participated in Pride over the years, and for me it's really been a way to, what it has felt like personally for me is a day that I can go out and really be who I am without, I don't want to say fear, but there, at least in my mind, is this sort of pass of, today's my day to be out and no one can tell me anything. It's kind of how it feels. There's definitely a sense of community, and there's fun and that kind of thing, and so I really enjoyed that over the years. And also for me, living in Asheville, there's a huge support local culture in Asheville. So a lot of people really support local businesses and eat local food and that kind of thing, and I really partake in that. And so for me, Pride is a day where I can go out and see what businesses and organizations from the town, from the city, are participating in supporting Pride, and I'm much more likely to shop at those places or endorse those places. So that's kind of what it's been for me over the years. I actually had this experience at Pride one year that was really meaningful to me in not all the best ways. So for many years I identified as bi because that was the term that was available to me, and that's what I just felt was socially accessible and what I knew about. And I've never identified as lesbian, and I also have always dressed in a pretty feminine way, and I just am who I am. So one year I was volunteering at Pride, helping to, I think, pass out drink bracelets or something like that, and there was this woman who walked up who I actually worked pretty closely with at the college I was working at the time, and we saw each other almost every day, and I've always been pretty open about who I am, but I also have never been someone to walk around with bi or queer stamped across my face, and it's never been something that unless there is a particular situation where politically or socially it is a place for advocacy, that I really feel the need to talk about it. So I guess she didn't know that I identified as bi at the time. And so, she walks up and she's like, "Oh, what are you doing here?" And I said, "Well, I'm volunteering." And she's like, "Oh yeah, I guess it takes everybody, the whole community, everybody's got to come out and support us." And I thought, okay, and so we kind of kept talking, and I realized that she was assuming that I was straight and that I was there for some other reason, I guess. And so I didn't have to come out to her in that conversation, but I did, and I told her that I was bi, and that, this was really a place for me to come out and be part of my community, and she was like, "Oh, well, bi, huh? How's that working out for you?" And it was this very judgmental perspective, and she's a little bit older, and, there are many reasons that she could have said that kind of thing, but it really had an impact on me, because as a very femme-presenting person who doesn't have a lot of queer visibility, that was hurtful from within my own community to experience that kind of thing. So, I've had mixed feelings about Pride over the years, because it does really feel like a gay space, and that obviously is very much affected by the place that I've lived. And I would say over the last few years, the trans visibility is definitely increasing more and more. There's an organization called Justice for All, JUFA, that's really working on that. There's really some great stuff happening. But there's also a huge gay movement, and those don't have to be separate things, but sometimes it can feel that way at a Pride celebration, and that's kind of been my experience a little bit. So that was all before I started dating Mel, and before Mel transitioned, and before I was really connected to that. And we've been, since we've been together and since Mel's transitioned, or started transitioning, and it was fun. We went and we watched, some performances, and we talked to some of the local organizations that are doing some really great work in the community, and we ate, and that was fun. It was a fun day out. We love festivals, we go, and that's that. But I wouldn't say it's the place where we feel the most supported by queer community in Asheville. That happens more in dialogues and conversations and potlucks and that kind of thing than it does at Pride for us. So we haven't, I don't know that I have a lot, that I've noticed a lot of difference since going with someone who's transitioning, because we haven't been super involved. But I have heard from folks that that there isn't a lot of trans awareness or trans visibility at least our Pride. So there's that. That's what it is. I know something that Mel and I have talked a lot about is queer visibility and queer performance and what that means in relation to Pride. So, there are many, many stereotypes around queer folks being fabulous, and especially these ideas of gay men being very fabulous and flamboyant and glitter and boas and leather and all this stuff. And I absolutely support that if that is something that an individual wants to do. I want everyone to express themselves in their own way, and I love my queer fabulous community. And that being said, I have felt pressure to look a certain way at Pride, or I have felt certain pressure to, perform my queerness in a certain way. And the conversations that Mel and I have had are, what else is happening from the queer community? What other images show of us than leather and boas and, being crazy on a float at a Pride parade, that kind of thing. So I think that can get really tricky really quickly, because in no way am I wanting to police, or in no way am I allowing for anyone to police what individuals do. And I want to create space. I want there to be space for people to express themselves how they truly feel, like they want to. And if that isn't with feather and boas, then that's great. And this also has led to a conversation around, there's a lot of alcohol involved in some queer spaces, for instance, Pride, and also at gay clubs, queer clubs. And, for us, as we've gotten into a deeper relationship and as we've gotten older, we don't go out like we used to. That just is what it is. Maybe we're just old fogies, I don't know. But we are seeking queer space that doesn't revolve around alcohol and dancing. We want conversation, and we want dialogue, and we want deep meaning. And if that happens at a queer club, that's great. But for us, it isn't. And so I think something that we're desiring is to kind of bring into the Pride celebration more meaning and conversation. And again, we may find this as we go to different places and experience other queer spaces or Pride celebrations. But for us, that is what it is right now. So I would love to hear what conversation is happening around Pride celebrations and what you and your partner's experiences are, where you've felt really supported and where you felt like you can really be yourself, and where maybe there's some tension there. And should Pride celebrations be reshaped in any way? Something I'm really curious about. So anyway, I hope you all have a great week, and we'll see you next week. Okay, bye.